Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Modern Brown Men. Today we got a special guest tonight. We're back in the GTA area. You know, this is a guest that Mook's been wanting to, bring on for a while now. He's like, man, we gotta bring Jay on. He's like, I'm gonna do everything to bring Jay Chaudhry on the podcast. And here we are today, man. And to the audience that don't know, Jay Chaudhry, he'll probably introduce himself, but a background on him. But he's a founder of Break Media Groups. Break Media Groups, there we go. And then Nihilate is a recent partnership that you started about, I want to say a year ago, like 2023?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So, give us a glimpse of the audience that might not know about you, or, that you're more like the behind the scene guys that brings everything to life that people might not know about,
Right.
So give us the audience a glimpse about, what you're about and, what you're up to these days.
Yeah, for sure, man. The introduction was sufficient enough. Obviously, I'm a founder of Break Media Group, which served as boxing's first ever sports agency. But at the core, I'm a filmmaker. I've been a filmmaker for the past 17 years. I've done everything from commercial work to business to cinema to advertising to my recent entry to sports less than almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've just been crushing it in the space of content, culture content, everything from NBA to NFL to UFC collaborations to everything to presidential collaborations.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty cool ride. Not all of it was done through Break Media, of course.
Yeah.
But through our collaborations with several different production houses and partners and colleagues, we've been able to set a name for ourselves for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you're born and raised in Toronto, or right?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I was talking to Mook about. I'm like, man, not many people take that route into filmmaking or the production side, especially in this entertainment business in Canada. Not a lot of people take that route.
Fuck that. Not anybody who's South Asian is
and on top of that, to be South Asian.
Right.
And given our backgrounds, as we know, they're stereotypical. You got to get that, the basic education, accounting for the doctor or whatever. Those are the basic ones. And you tell your mom, I like film production. I like doing the behind the scenes. I want to bring a different segment to it. They're going to be like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, sure. I think I totally get what you're saying for sure, and I think that would apply to anybody who hasn't been brought up in a media kind of mahal situation.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I was blessed and fortunate enough to be born into a family who was already in media.
Oh wow!
So my father, God bless his soul, named Chaudhry, he's from Pakistan. He came to Canada in the early '80s and launched the first ever South Asian Pakistani-based television show called Dharti Soni Pakistan.
Wow, television show.
Yes,
Okay.
which was on City TV at its prime.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys remember the show Ion Asia with Darshan Sahota.
I know about the
It
show.
used to be it used to show up in Vancouver, Calgary too.
Yeah.
We were the show right before them. So it was Mom and Dad's show was at 9:30 a.m. And then Darshan's family, Ion Asia, which was the Indian version of our show, started at 10 o'clock. So I grew up in, seeing my dad go to press conferences, seeing my dad go to melas and shows and all these different types of shenanigans across the city that was featuring Indian and Punjabis coming together to celebrate Pakistan Day, Indian Day. We're always together as a family going out.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was very well aware of who my dad was as a television producer figure in Canada. He was one of the first ever to ever start a network of this kind. So it was as easy as me just to kind of clock in my hours during studio time when my dad used to go film his show. He used to drag me along during recording nights, we'd call it, in the family. And he'd be like, oh, just come with me, watch how I do this. And I used to go and just watch him kind of direct and produce the show. And then my mom would host. And then the engineers would just be like, the Chris of the world would just kind of be there in the back. And I'd find more interested in behind the scenes, like, yo, look at all these monitors and all these keys. It's almost like how a kid looks at a pilot's cockpit.
Yeah.
You see all these fancy buttons, and you see what's going on. And it's like, I just fell in love with the fact that my dad would be like some person who kept coming to the room and be like, not like this, do it like this. And I'd see that come on screen after. I'd be like, holy fuck. Dad just said something and this guy heard it and now it's coming on screen. The whole thing seems so far-fetched to me as a kid because the only spectrum of media that we had growing up was TV.
Yep.
A little 5-inch by 5, not 5 inch, sorry. A little 24-inch by 24-inch monitor. That's all we had. We didn't have cell phones and social media back there to be like, I can do better. So for me, this was like a magic box, right? That was controlled in this room where my dad would control as a director or producer of my mom's show. And so early on, I was already kind of inhibited with these thoughts of this is kind of dope.
Yeah.
But I never really got into it until my later years when I started getting into high school and college. And my dad used to ask me those stronger questions that all of our parents asked, like, what are you gonna do when you grow up? What do you want to do? And I'd be like, I still say some stupid shit back then, like, oh no, I'll be a doctor, a lawyer, or some shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, bro, you're like 18 years old. That's not happening. Like, people who want to be lawyers, doctors, and stuff, like, they know this stuff from a young age.
Yeah.
And he's like, just do something, bro. You gotta do something. Growing up in Toronto, bro. I wouldn't say I got into like the wrong gangs and stuff like that, but obviously we did a lot of fucked up shit. Growing up in Toronto, you get involved with different types of crowd, different types of people. I grew up primarily with Black, Asians, Pakistani, Bengalis, Tamils. So like we didn't really have any mentors in our friend circle. They were all just facilitating gangs and guns and clubbing, partying. So my only mentor was my dad in a way. So like every time we used to kind of talk about what to do next, it always came down to like, well, why don't I just follow your footsteps?
Yeah. That's so cool though. Like you saw your dad as like that superhero that everybody watches on TV, but you got to see him in real life.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool thing for yourself at a young age. Where like, your dad paved the way to, in a sense, where like, this is what success looks like in a way.
Yeah.
At an early age. And kudos to your parents would be like, instead of a lot of people, their parents be like, they get lost in their passion and their dreams. They forget about their kids a lot of the times, man.
Yeah.
And especially like, a lot of people don't see that balance. They could have been like, like my kid's gonna go to daycare or out like somewhere, I'll drop them off. But your parents like, tag along. See what we do, like,
for sure.
outside of the household norm that, that you see every day. So, that's such a unique journey. Like, I don't think on top of my head that I can know anybody in my personal circle, as you said, that kind of had that environment where you saw your parents be like that mold right off that bat that molded you who you are today, And then what you kind of pointed out too is it's hard to find mentors, especially that people that look like us in different media ranges. Very hard. Like it just, as you said, it's basic things like, oh, your cousin's a doctor, or he's an engineer, like follow him. But I don't have the passion for it. Like I don't want to go that way, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all my cousins at the time. I mean, we didn't really have any direct doctors or lawyers in our family, but we had very hard, labor-intensive family members. People who were working hard, did long hours at the factories or at the clinics or at the wards, and they're just putting in their hours to make sure that their families were okay. And no different than my father. My father wasn't doing the TV show 24/7. He was actually managing an engineering plant in Brampton, a plastic factory.
Oh, wow.
Full-time, 9 to 5. He'd be doing that. Then he'd come home and do a side hustle, which is the show. Right? And then my mom, who's still here, by the way, like, look at her life. She was a Muslim Pakistani woman who was publicly on TV, which wasn't known in our community at all. Muslim men used to hide their wives, especially back in the 80s and 90s. It was like, my voti stays home. Like, she doesn't need to be on the streets like that.
That's so true.
We'll go, we'll get the bread, we'll bring it home. You come out only when I go out, kind of thing. That was like the mahal growing up.
It was.
So my dad pushed for my mom to be on screen. Like, get out there, make a voice for yourself, and let our family be known through your poetry. Come on, was a writer.
Wow.
So like her poetry started getting recognized. I remember, bro, there were times like every time the program used to air every Saturdays, we get calls from Vancouver, Edmonton, from Pakistan, from India. People just being like, oh, like we love Nasreen. My mother is saying we loved her little poetry she did at the end. So like my dad was already embarking in this, whether it was indirectly or directly, building the foundation of what was to come next, which was like the next generation of filmmakers and producers. Right. So
no, that's beautiful, man. It seems like a relationship that everybody like the ideal thing you want to see, because a lot of times you don't see that the camaraderie amongst like your parents and fathers, which kind of deters a lot of kids to go down, as you said. Sometimes they're mentally not progressed at that point at a young age. They start going down like dumb stuff, because that's what everything's around you, especially at an age like during 90s, like you don't have cell phones, or you're not sitting at home and you're not sitting at TV video games.
Right.
You out there, like either you get involved with the wrong crowd, or you just out there, either you just hooping 24/7 out there on the streets. So it's just cool to see that that unity you guys had at such a young age, and it progressed throughout your lifetime, and creating that environment, and that's what key. Like in a family household, like creating that environment, it allows you to, when you eventually feel like, this is what I want to pursue, you'll be like, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's already been done in my lineage. My father led the way. For me, it's just like understanding what my purpose is.
Thank you for saying that. That's exactly how I tack where I'm at now. Like in my present day, who I am right now, where I've gotten to, there's not many. We were just talking about this on the phone earlier. I'm like, bro, there's not many South Asian creators in sports who are at this level.
Yeah,
right? I mean, there's Ronnie 2K, there's Shams Charania, and there's Jay Chaudhry.
That's true, man.
There's nobody else at this level.
At this level,
I'm pretty sure there's people. I'm not going to knock anyone down who's a creator in this space. But then when you're talking like the top level, the VIP, executive, superstar, athletes, presidents, who else is doing it at this level?
That's so true.
And I'm not just saying that to my own horn. It's like, bro, I've worked for this. My dad paved the way for me to be here. So if I'm not going to be at the top of my game just to respect my father, then what the fuck am I doing this for? So I've always kept that in mind. Like if I'm going to do something, I better do it all the way. I'm not going to half-ass this, right?
Yeah.
And so like now look at where we are. Like there's only a limited amount of people. Forget sports. South Asian filmmakers out of Canada in general.
I know, yeah.
Give me your top
Very
10.
true.
You can. Give me your top 5. You can.
I know.
But I would love to leave a legacy where I was at least the top 3, if not top 1 in Canada as a filmmaker producer to leave his mark, in addition to what my father did.
So then how did you, like kind of taking a step back when at a younger age, because you know well enough, like we were just talking about a minute ago, it was just like the influence, right? External influence, like going out partying and stuff, especially in Toronto too, right? Like there's so much shit going on here, right? Like drinking and all that shit. So then how did you like, because at the same time, like your dad, who would you say that he forced you to come with you? Or did you voluntarily?
What, to those studio sessions?
to the studio.
It started off as a force because you were just like, bro, like you're not doing shit all anyway. All you're doing is doing bunga every week anyway. So once a week, just come with me and your mom and just consider that like our family outing and learn this stuff. But yeah, he did kind of push me into. So what happened eventually was, graduated high school with probably below average marks for sure. Simply not because I wasn't smart, it's because I didn't go to school at all. I didn't care. And then I got accepted into Toronto Film School. And that was a turning point for me because at the time, Toronto Film School were only taking about 600 applicants every semester. In order for you to get accepted, you better have had a kick-ass portfolio. And I did. I had my dad's like, because by then I already started producing commercials for my dad's clients who were advertised on his show. Or I'd produce small little segments that were on his show, like jewelry shop, features, collaborations that we call them. Back then were just called like features. So I had enough of a portfolio to kind of show Toronto Film School, like, yo, this is where I'm at right now because you got to take me to the next level. And they're like, yeah, you got something special. Long and behold, my first 3 months into the program, I dropped out because I was already fucking way ahead of this. I was way ahead of the class. Way ahead technically, way ahead graphically, way ahead script writing wise, filmmaking wise, understanding lighting, audio, cameras. I would start telling the professors how to set up his 3-point lighting.
Imagine. Just sitting there with like, no, professor, this is wrong. You gotta fix this.
I'm like, yo, your key light's not set right. And he'd be like, excuse me. I'd be like, it's not set right. There's shadow forecasting on the opposite side. And he'd be like, who the fuck is this kid, right? And so he was the one who actually told me and came to me on the side one day. He's like, yo, bro, honestly, like you got a big potential. And I know because he was part of that original meeting when my dad came in to get financing for the school. And he's like, do your dad a favor and start your own production company. You'll kick ass. And I actually have some clients for you that you can work with right away.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, well, I don't really know how to start a company. Like, how does one go about starting his own production company? I don't know how to do that. And he's like, with your smarts, you'll figure this out. And I was like, all right, bet. And then I kind of just told my dad that day. I'm like, yo, I think I'm going to do my own thing. And that's when my dad got really worried. He's like, you're not going to have a fucking degree. You don't have a job. Now, just because you're some Godar band who fucking told you to quit school because but a smart hole, like, how are you gonna do this?
It's so true.
And I'm like, I don't know. I just have a feeling that I could do it, And he's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? I'm like, nothing. Just buy my first camera. And that's what my dad did. And I still thank him for that till this day. But if it wasn't for that first camera that he bought me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And that first camera that he got me landed me my first gig. My first commercial gig. From that first commercial gig, the rest is history. Because I could backtrack way up until 2008 with my first commercial until where I am today from that first ad.
No, that's crazy, man. And then and then eventually working and progressing through all those obstacles, and made your way to 2017, where you eventually launched your company, right? Now, one thing that I do want to talk about. We hear this narrative a lot. A lot of people like to. Not put the work in, but use certain things to like use an excuse to kind of undermine where other people's success are. What I mean by that is we are people of color. We have a target on us, no matter what, compared to, especially going into an industry where, they don't see many of us. But now it's like what I see now, people tend to use that as an excuse to be like, oh, I'm not in this position because I'm scared of my color and other people are discriminating.
But you're victimizing yourself.
Exactly, that victim mentality. I want to ask you, since you started your company and everything, and you're getting into these different circles, and you're seeing these unique challenges, have you ever thought that because like the way you looked, and you're like, I'm not getting the same opportunities? I did a 10 times better job than that guy did, but how did he get the opportunity over me?
I did think that until I kicked ass and won my first industry award. So let's talk about that. So I started Break Media back in 2017, okay?
Yeah.
Break Media, for those who don't know who are listening to the podcast, Break Media served as the sport of boxing's first ever content house. Before Break Media came, boxers, professional boxers, combat sportsmen, they didn't know what social media was. Like they were on Instagram, but they weren't really active on it because the way the boxers work is that you're in the gyms constantly, you're working, you're putting in all your hours, and once in a while you get a call from your manager, be like, "Yo, some guy just stepped out of a fight. Come on in. This is your chance to walk in, fight this guy. You can work your way up the ladder." So they're always in training mode, right? They don't have time to do like TikTok videos and dance and shit. So my company came in and served that for them. And within their first year, we were able to collaborate with who are now champions, by the way. At the time, there were our prospects. We signed on 50 boxers in our first year.
Wow.
And we were cracking deals with like nationwide like companies. Like we had partnership deals with like Pizza Hut, Budweiser, Honda. And once again, when I say we, I mean me.
Yeah, your
This is
company.
me at home by myself in my kitchen making these brand deals happen, right? Seriously, people thought that I was running like a full-out fucking firm.
Yeah,
they thought
that
I had like a team.
Advisory board and everything.
And eventually I did. I did bring on a guy. Her name is Ryan Retchin. Shout out to Ryan. He came on board after my first year and he was like, "Yo, bro, I want to help you do sales and marketing." And without him, like it wouldn't have taken off the way it did. But to your question, check this out. So we eventually got nominated by Synopsis. Synopsis is the ESPYs for industry. So there's the ESPY awards that go up to the big time athletes and all that type of stuff. But then there's Synopsis awards, which takes care of industry execs. Everybody from Showtime, Fox Sports, HBO Sports, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, the biggest sports properties in the country will show up here to get the awards. I found out that I was nominated for one of the projects that we've done with a boxer.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? And I'm like, who am I up against? And so when I saw the email, it was Break Media nominated with Fox Sports, Bleacher Report, and Mercedes-Benz. And I'm like, I'm not going to fucking win. And it goes down to what I look like. I'm like, who's going to pick me?
Chance.
There's no fucking chance. Who's Jay Chaudhry, Toronto, Break Media Group? Like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, bro, is it even worth going, man? And I remember I contacted the awards company. I was like, hey, I'm from Toronto. Can I just like, view it from home? And like, I'm not gonna win. And she was like, no, you should, come down. It'd be a nice little weekend. It's in New York. We'll give you guys comps for drinks and food and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, but the flight and hotel I gotta pay for myself. I was like, yo, fuck it, because at the end of the day, I want to be in the room with these people.
Yeah, exactly.
So at most, I'll take some pictures, right, and I'll come home with a handful of numbers in my Rolodex.
Yeah.
Long story short, fly down. And I'm in the room on the table. All these guys are coming up one at a time because they're calling the awards for best cinematography, best collaboration. And then came my category, best partnership with an athlete. And the name Break Media Group, nobody's clapping. Showtime, Fox Sports, Bleacher Report.
I've got a funny story about Showtime though. We'll bring that up.
And then they go, the winner is Break Media Group.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
He's like, no
my
way.
table didn't know who I was either. So they're looking for the Break Media Group guy too. And I'm like, no, that's me. I go to the guy next to me. I'm like, yo, that's me. He said, word? I'm like, get the fuck up there. I'm like, holy shit. So I walk up and that was my proudest moment because I'm like, I'm in a room full of gore, whatever it is. I'm the only brown guy in this room.
Yeah.
I better make a statement now. And I didn't have a speech prepared or nothing because I didn't think I was going to win. I didn't fucking go there.
You had no idea.
But I went up on the podium. I said what I had to say about, I said some stuff about Break Media becoming the first ever sports agency in boxing and how we're looking to revolutionize blah, 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 blah. Long story short, bro, I kicked out Showtime, Bleacher Report, Mercedes-Benz in my first year in the business doing sports content. And that's when I knew that I could separate myself from the herd for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like that was like your turning point. You're like, you know what? Like not to, as you said, not to, boost your ego, but like I got something special.
Yeah.
Like I can really do something special with this. Because man, you don't realize, like as he said, what one TV like show that you would put on is Showtime. When you want to watch all access, that was the only thing. Like as you said, with boxers, only thing they will put up is like a story when they're on a night out or like that's you won't see nothing else.
And the thing with Showtime was, they went bankrupt now, right?
Yeah, I think they got bought up by
Paramount, but then they officially got out of sports now. They're officially gone.
Shit.
Paramount bought out Showtime. Yeah. But now they're officially gone. They dissolved the company.
I want to get more into that though.
I will for sure.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, Showtime's biggest problem was, and I knew Showtime's president very well, Steven Espinoza. We've had many conversations about what to do with Showtime and how to make sure that it stays relevant.
Yeah.
You got to stop doing these little all access features.
Yep.
once every fucking 6 months.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would be
What are
fiending for it.
fans need something in between.
Yo.
Yeah.
So the concept that I came up with, the concept that I started implementing through Break Media was we're going to start coming up with original series between the fights.
You have
So
to.
if there's a boxer who's into food, create a signature 12-part series of him exploring food across the country.
100%.
That's
Yeah.
his series. Another boxer likes race cars. Well, let's produce a racing show that's shot all across F1 series in Paris. Right? That's another series. And I could go on and on and on with the ideas that I've had
Yeah.
that would pretty much cover the whole year. So that now fans have a reason to stay subscribed to the network.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they have a reason to still keep fucking with their boxer.
Yep.
And now because of that, they're going to stay a subscription. They're going to stay what we call permanent subscriber to the network. So whatever happened to the network, they still chase you around. So when they got bought up by Paramount, Paramount's biggest thing was we barely got subscribers from Showtime because Showtime wasn't bringing any property
anything,
with them, any IP with them. Right? And
It's so true.
And it was it's a whole circle of life thing going on with how media properties survive in this space of content. Because you got to make sure that you have like a barcode on every piece of one of your content and the people in the content themselves who in my world are athletes.
But do you feel like because they're like these bigger companies, if you look at the boardrooms, you're gonna see people that are like way older comparative to you. Do you feel like that was like one of the downfalls, the way they went about the strategical things? Because as you said, with Showtime, you'll wait for months and for All Access, it will come out. It'd be the dopest thing.
Yeah, the dopest thing. For
Dopest
sure.
thing. And then it's like it was like a roller coaster. You're at the
And the
highest,
lights off.
and it would just literally turn the lights off, and you're waiting
Until
for
next time.
Yeah, literally.
And the next time is like 6 months away.
And then by the time fans forget about who's even fighting, who's even relevant, they have no idea.
Yeah.
And then they expect to improve their sports following. How? Look at UFC. Like, why is this like, UFC such a gravitating support that everybody?
Well, UFC
comes
has
around.
look how much stuff they got. UFC embedded. They have their behind the scenes content.
Yeah.
right?
Everything.
Every one of their fighters has their own like social media presence that's very prominent. The only one thing I don't like about UFC's model compared to boxing is because of the fact that they don't allow their fighters to have sponsorships, which is a big thing in boxing.
Just because of
you're not allowed to have any
their sponsorships,
graphics on your shorts or your gloves. You can't drink like
Monster.
this water
Yeah,
bottles
Monster.
in press conferences
Yeah.
because you have to be Monster or Prime.
Yeah.
Right? a lot of fuck shit that goes on in
Man,
UFC.
fuck Prime. Like shout out Prime, but like, bro, man, shut up. You know what the issue is? Like,
fuck up.
a lot of people. Okay, let's dive into like these companies. They're all fucking bought out, man. Like, if you look at Prime, if you're an athlete, would you say yes, drink this and this is going to hydrate you properly?
No, that's why I love Cristiano Ronaldo. He'll come to a press conference and be like, get this fucking coke
out of here,
Right? And it's like, you're right though. I think athletes don't understand. They undervalue themselves a lot.
They do.
Right? They don't understand the power that they have. They don't need to say yes to Prime. They can tell Dana to fuck off.
Yep.
We're still fighting. Fans are still going to demand the fight, regardless of. But the
100%.
thing is, you're right. They're bought out. They're just like they're like
But would you say?
and they don't get paid for this, by the way. Dana
They
gets
don't,
paid.
yeah.
The athlete doesn't
That's what I'm
get
about to say.
paid to stand behind Prime. Meanwhile, you're the IP. The video of the press conference, the Prime is in front of Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor,
While he's
Khabib.
speaking, yep.
Stop. They're the ones who should be charging you for because this drink's in front of me.
Yeah.
Right?
You know
But
who's
the
the prime
problem is that they
example?
don't get paid for that.
Yeah, you know, prime example who said fuck Dana? Who was it? Conor McGregor. Remember when he was promoting his whiskey?
Yeah.
Dana didn't say anything. Take that off the stage.
Yeah. Well, Conor runs UFC. With
Exactly. He knew what his power was. Like, just like, we could talk about Francis Ngannou as well. What was one of his main issues?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sacrificing everything and you pay me this much and how much are you making? And that's one of the things.
Yeah, and like that's the difference between boxing and UFC too. Francis Ngannou was making $750K as his highest payday in UFC.
Against Fury.
He got paid $25 million against Fury.
Yeah, insane. And I think they did two bouts, right? Oh, no, he did one against Fury, one against Joshua. Sorry.
Joshua. He got paid $20 million for Joshua, $25 for Fury. Crazy. You don't make that kind of money in UFC in a lifetime.
No chance.
It's fucking crazy.
And that's why a lot of people have that debate about, who gets paid more. But then they have that trickle-down effect. But wait, there's someone who's way below in UFC, they still get that 5,000 or whatever. Where boxing, they're saying only the top upper echelon of boxers are getting money. Rest of they're not making money.
Right, and that brings us to our point of why name, image, and likeness is so important because of the fact that there's only the top 1% of athletes making that kind of money. What are the other 98% doing with their time off? If you're not a superstar player, you still have superstardom online though. And most of these players still have hundreds of thousands of followers. They still have verified check marks. They still have they can still go out and get brand deals. Problem is these guys are not. They're not trained well enough from the get-go to understand how that works, right?
Yep.
And maybe this is a good segue as to why the company Nyland exists.
Yep.
Like let's first define what name, image, and likeness is for those who don't know, right?
Yep.
Name, image, and likeness, by definition, is an athlete's or individual's right to profit off of their personal identity, whether it's photos and video content, whether it's personal brand, or whether it's public IP. So up until 2019, the NCAA did not allow athletes to monetize their image and likeness. Why? Because it was strictly collegiate level authority, right? They wanted to keep college sports and pro sports separate. Okay, whatever, that's one thing. Now, shortly in 2019, the NCAA finally decided, after much pressure, that they will allow student athletes to start making money and monetizing off of their brand. So as you can imagine, hundreds and thousands of brands started flooding the sports marketplace for collegiate sports. Companies like EA Sports came, companies like Nike came, companies like Adidas came. And we've seen some of the biggest deals that would have otherwise not been made if it wasn't for the fact that they were open to these sponsorships. But what's the problem with this? The problem is when you're dealing with these types of brands and this type of money, the typical athlete doesn't have that kind of business acumen to understand the level of these deals and what it takes to monetize off of these deals. And when you go higher up to the pro levels, like the Travis Kelce's, the Vernon Davises of the world, they have agents and managers who help them facilitate these deals. So what happens after that is that now you're stuck with a college athlete who is getting these brand deals, but they don't have any training. And that's where Nyland comes in. Nyland is the first ever gamified, and I'll get to the gamified aspect later, educational platform where the athlete is taking our classes and they're not only learning as they're in school and playing their sport, but they're being incentivized to do that as well. Let me explain to you how that works. Let's say if you're a third-year player, right? You play for Duke University basketball. Are you going to get drafted? Are you not? Who knows, right? Unless you're Kobe Bryant, chances are slim. The thing is, bro, when you're in college, there's a certain level of academia that you have to uphold. There's a certain level of grades you have to keep consistent. And in some cases, if your grades aren't good enough, you can potentially be let off the team as well.
Oh, wow.
So the problem comes when you have these level athletes who want to learn along their path, but they're unable to. So we created the first ever platform for student athletes on the go, take our classes wherever they are. And they're not only being taught by professors or like somebody from your civics class, you're being taught by industry leaders. For example, if you're an athlete who wants to know how to make a name for himself on the Meta platform, Rebecca Greenwell, who currently serves as the head of sports partnerships at Meta, is teaching your class. If you want to learn more about name, image, and likeness, the rules and regulations behind it, you're learning from Mitt Winter, who's an established attorney at law for NIL. Right? So now all of a sudden, I don't want to say your little political science degree doesn't mean anything. But if you're a college athlete with a major or minor in political science or civic studies, what is that going to get you in the real world?
It's not going to help you.
So our platform helps facilitate that. And now let's go to the gamification aspect of it. The cool part is after you're done watching your courses online, and once again, these courses are built very much with entertainment in mind. They have the context of a masterclass session, but it's tailor-made as a TikTok video, so it's very short in length. So you take these classes, and at the end of the class, you take a small quiz. You pass that quiz, and up comes a reward. And the reward is something as small as $5 off your next order at Subway, or something big as $1,000 credit to American Airlines. So we're partnered with dozens and hundreds of brands who are helping facilitate this platform. So now everybody wins, from the corporate sponsor to the schools to the student and to the teams, and everybody wins.
So it's incentivizing them, in a sense. So
it's much needed though, because especially like in now college, they don't provide, besides maybe they might provide you the basic foundation of like, okay, finances wise. But other than that, really, they don't really teach you the overall aspect of like learning everything that comes within the NIL industry.
And you know what this also does as well with NIL? It creates a competitive, I feel like it creates a more competitive environment in college. And what I mean by that is, as you said, how many people are going to make it out of the NBA? There's 2 rounds, there's 60 players that are getting picked. Right? Out of how many people? Thousands. So there's a slim chance of you making it out there. So now, when you at college level, you're like, you know what? Okay, how can I utilize, as you said, like NIL deals to kind of get a head start?
Exactly.
After my my college days are done, because I don't make it to the NBA, then what?
Exactly.
Right? So, and then I feel like it creates a more competitive environment in a sense where the athletes are putting their best self out there. And other college that might be smaller, they might be like, hey, listen, we have this, given what you have accomplished, we would like to offer you this deal given, what you bring. And again, before that, a college player might not be as motivated to go out
look,
to give it
there's
all.
4 core areas of where we focus on, right? Mental health, well-being, brand building, financial literacy, and career transition. All 4 of these topics, bro, are barely taught at these collegiate levels.
Yeah.
So when you're prepared from college as a baller, as a tennis player, as a golfer, you understand what it takes to kind of build your life outside of the sport. It better prepares you for what's next. Because you're right, bro. Unless you're a pro, and like NBA or NFL or the PGA is looking at you like, yo, that one, get him. I don't care what his grades are.
Yeah.
We're getting this guy to sign him to a multi-million-dollar deal, and Nike's already waiting for you at the finish line before you even start. And it's like, that rarely happens, right? And I'm talking about every sport, not just boxing, NFL, NBA, every sport across the board. Unless you're a top 1% performer, I'm sorry, bro, chances are you're not going to be playing that sport for the rest of your life. But the shitty part is, you spent your 4 years in school studying stuff that also doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter,
right?
No,
So companies like us are very much necessary in this space. I'm so glad that we're helping spearhead the next level of education chapter for professional athletes.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful to see. And, one thing I do want to ask you guys, like, I'm not in this, I'm not in the game of like nail deals and everything. I don't deal with day-to-day stuff, but you guys probably see it too now, where a lot of the times, like the agents, they have this agenda where there's personal gain. They put themselves before they put the other, athletes. Where what I mean by that is they're in it for the personal gain, what I can get out of the deals. And you said sometimes you see these aggressive agents where they might increase the percentage to like crazy amount. I think Mook told me one time some people are trying like 50% or 40% of like what the athlete's bringing. Like the agent is just there to facilitate and teach the athlete, like this is how you should negotiate and what your worth is. Not be like, hey, this is your worth, but let me take half of your worth and keep it for myself.
Well, that's
how do you negotiate that when it comes from the athlete aspect, and how do you on the agent side? I want to ask you guys, how do you guys kind of put forth, you want to also get compensated for the work that you do for yourself, but want to keep it a plain platform where you're not using nobody.
I got you. It's a slippery slope, and I'm sure Mook can speak to this as well, where first of all there's an agent, right? And then there's a manager, right? And those two definitions differentiate depending on what sport you're playing in. Boxing and agent doesn't exist, for example. You only have a manager. And this manager isn't some Ivy League Harvard graduate. It's the boxer's brother-in-law.
Yeah, look at Al Heyman. Look at Al Heyman.
Al Heyman's different. He went to Harvard. He studied education.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's very educated.
I did not know that.
Shout out Al Heyman. He's one of the very few who's actually educated in this regard.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, for sure. I'm surprised you actually know who Al Heyman is.
No,
That's crazy.
Of course, man. Like when you watch boxing, you hear these names and you see what the bigger fishes are. You're like, wow.
No, he's behind the scenes, but he's a super cool individual for sure. Yeah, I work with his partner Sam Austin a lot throughout the year. So Al's definitely one of those guys who's extremely educated behind the doors for sure. Yeah. But he's not really doing anything for the athletes beyond the pay-per-view or behind the fight night deals, right? He's not going out there geting sponsorship or endorsement. That's what I was doing. Yeah. So Al and his team know me very well because half of the roster from PBC was signed to Break Media. So I was doing a lot of the sponsorship deals, right? So where I was going with this? Yeah, so you have an agency and a manager. Now in NFL and NBA, you can have both. Yeah. Right? You can have an agent whose strictly job is to crack your next NBA team's contract. Right?
That's the agent's job.
That's the agent's job, his sports agency, right? So he'll get you if you're playing for the Spurs, you have an injury, you want to get backlog, you want to go to another team, he'll crack those deals for you. He takes a percentage. Yeah. What that percentage is, whatever. Everyone differentiates.
So kind of like Rich Paul, right?
Rich Paul, yeah.
That's his
Rich Paul's an agent, for sure. And then you have managers. Managers are the ones who are supposed to do all your brand deals for you, your sponsorship deals, your commercial deals, your commercial appearances, your PR appearances, your write-ups, all that stuff belongs to your manager. Now, your manager should be dividing that task into various different chapters too, because I met a lot of NBA managers who think they're hot shit, but they ain't. Right? And I'll bump heads with a lot of NBA managers because they think what's best for their athlete when I know it isn't. Because I've seen success on the biggest stage, having produced content for like some of the biggest NBA stars on the planet. I think I know a thing or two about what works. But many of these managers will butt heads and be like, no, we're kind of going for it this way, we're going for it that way. And it's like, yo, bro, like, are you going to be in my way? Right? And he is in your way because he's tied to the athlete. So it's a slippery slope, at least for my work, to kind of deal with both. But from an actual agency and manager side, dealing with the athlete, I imagine that to be super hard as well because now you're dealing with people who might not be 100% transparent with you. Right? I was completely transparent with all our athletes on Break Me in terms of how much percentage we're making off every deal, and this is the cost of services entailed. But many of the times, I wouldn't be able to speak to the boxer about this because they already told the manager to speak to me about this as well. So now he's trying to take an icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And I can see him doing it. But who am I to tell the
boxer.
that's not my lane. But I know what this fucker's doing. And I just got to keep him out shut. Be like, all right, bro. And he'd be like, yo, anyway, you can send me an invoice for like $5K above what you. I'm like, oh, bro.
That's so true.
Because I know what you're doing. You want to show the athlete, yo, you charge 10, I'm keeping 5.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, who am I to say anything? I'm making my piece and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So who knows about how much of that stuff actually happens behind closed doors when it comes to management? But with agencies, I don't think it does. Because one bad move, it's a $100 million lawsuit.
Yeah. Really?
Right? Yeah. I mean, you can't.
You were talking about this.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a reason why there's so many lawsuits going on in the industry right now.
Yeah.
So that's from the athlete suing the agents.
Or agencies. I mean, I would say it's...
Or the,
well, no, I don't know of any recent commotion that's happened between athletes. That's what I'm saying. I don't think there is much shady stuff happening in that department. But between managers and athletes, for sure, that's happening all across the board. But nobody wants to spend the dollars and time that it takes to go after your manager.
Especially as
once
an
again,
athlete.
you gotta remember, these managers aren't, they're not the brightest of them all either. They're just kind of like your bro that you grew up with. You'd be surprised. Some of these NBA guys that I work with, like their managers are just their homeboy, bro.
Homeboys. That's true.
I grew up with him. He's my best friend. Once I made it, I paid him a salary every year to crack the deal. He's a smart kid. He's not really smart. He's just he's cool.
Yeah.
He knows his shit. Whatever. Right?
No, Nil, I don't think, it's been about 4 years since Nil started? Was it 2021, right?
2019, Nil got officially introduced. Yeah. Talking about Nile, the company, or Nil?
Nil in industry.
2019.
Was it 2019?
Yeah, 2019 was official. It was a term coined before that.
Yeah.
But it was officially introduced on a public spectrum in 2019. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's just because the one problem that I see with it, I mean, you can speak on this too. Is just there's not really any structure behind the NCAA. That's why there's so much lawsuits going on.
Yeah.
Because there's no structure, nobody can be held accountable by it.
What kind of stuff are you seeing right now? That's kind of.
I mean, it's like that we were talking about, lawsuits and stuff. Athletes are being misrepresented.
Right.
I've heard, I have a consultant out of New York, and he works very close with pro level players too, and even just helping out NIL agents as well. And he's saying he's like, Mok, what you're not understanding is that you're coming this with a purpose. Right, looking out for these athletes, where a lot of these agents are looking out for themselves. They just want their own piece and stuff. Yeah. And if anything goes wrong, they're out of there. So then everything is on the student athlete, the college athlete. And these athletes, these agents half the time are not even certified. They're not even registered under the state or anything like that.
Right.
They're just not really looking out for the player. They're just in it for just to earn the commission.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar about how the back end works of the NCAA and how they are.
They don't really have a structure. They don't really have.
Track all the deals that happen. Yeah. Are they involved in much of the deals? That's something that I'm not familiar with at all.
Well, I mean, I think. You just, I don't know.
They have to be a governing body overlooking it, no?
The NCAA is the governing body, but how much role do they actually play in the transactions of the deals?
Yeah.
They the athlete, the brand? I don't think that they do, but there should be some kind of...
At most, it's within the schools themselves.
They need to have monitoring for sure, because without monitoring these deals, you're going to run into a clusterfuck of just a bunch of bad misrepresentation
you have
and lawsuits on your athletes who are currently playing underneath your umbrella.
Because the most that they have is just each school has their own NIL collective, probably if they do, right, to at least monitor the transactions and all the deals going on. And other than that, from what I've came across is if a student athlete is making more than $600, then you have to report that. But that's about it. There's nothing really else besides
$600 you got to report.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. But I mean, as I said, there should be some sort of audit done on, as you said, by depending on what university you go to.
Yeah.
When an athlete signs a contract, there should be a governing body that's sitting there from that school representing the athlete to a certain extent.
Yeah, for sure.
This is what you're getting yourself into. You might not have, as you said, the money to get a lawyer at the time.
Yeah.
So he's signing because Mok told me, hey, this is a good deal for you. I'm gonna sign it later to realize, bro, I'm getting boned out of this deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Bro, you can look at these athletes that are trying to that are into the transfer portal too. They'll get transferred to a school. The coach just says hey, I'll give you a signing bonus, whatever you convert to the school, and there's nothing's in writing. And then the next thing you know, the student athletes suing the school themselves.
No, wait.
So I know Book wants to start something in this space too.
Yeah.
What kind of problems are you looking to tackle and fix? What kind of solutions are you trying to provide?
Well, I mean, I'm honestly not to the point where I can overlook the transfer portal themselves, being an agent within that. I mean, I could there is some overlap within just being a nil agent and being a transfer portal. Because
so you're looking to create your own nil agency that's going to strike brand deals and sponsors and stuff like that. With different
so
athletes?
that's my main goal. That's my main premise of Versatile Sports Group. Is to oversee the contract negotiations, make everything's clear, but also working on brand deals.
Not with the teams, but you're talking about the brand deals. Or you're talking about contract negotiations. You want to be an agency for NBA athletes?
Like actual
college athletes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the pro levels, that's later on down the road. But but yeah, because what I've seen a lot is like, this is especially too, is a lot of these brand deals are very, they're not very long lasting. They're very short and cut and simple, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, there's
many of
a
them are based on trends.
Yeah. But it's a hard balance between the two, because then you'll get one brand deal and then nothing progresses after that.
I mean, did you hear about the story about the little black meme, the black kid meme?
No.
Which one?
Go look it up on your phone. It's the black kid with the Popeyes, man. He does that.
Oh,
it's that meme.
yeah.
That famous meme. You know who that is, right?
I don't know who that is.
Now he plays for, I forgot the team, but he just got drafted to college football. So that kid, he was in line at Popeyes, but the meme pretty much popped out. It's a meme that I still use to this day. So it's a little funny meme. We'll show it for the audiences here.
Yeah.
But he went on to get drafted to his college football team, and then Popeyes found out, and Popeyes sponsored his entire career.
Wow.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's
so some deals are long lasting,
but
depending on the moment in the meme.
Exactly.
But that's the thing, is just like within NIL, you have like a lot of these kids that, you know, their parents have been playing pro level, so they don't have to worry about these brand deals because they have the last name for it. Like Sanders, right? Like this kid, like right, he gets everything, and then the kids that, you know, that don't really have that, you know, their
right, sure, yeah.
You know, their parents have gone into pro level, whatever it is. Like then they get intimidated that they feel like they're not gonna be able to compete at that level.
Like, what do you mean by intimidated? Like.
But then, so then what they think is that, okay, because a lot of these other college athletes that already have the last name, because of their parents, they feel like they won't get any attention at all.
Do you think that, so
they can get the brand deals?
Because of their name on that team, they got overshadowed by what they're doing.
That's him.
Yeah, this guy, bro.
Yeah, this is the guy.
This kid.
Yeah, bro. You don't know this kid?
It's been a minute.
That's the kid. That was taken, I don't know how long ago that
these memes probably helped him get that deal.
That's essentially what got him the deal. It's a meme. And that's what we're saying. Trend culture can immediately set you apart from the rest of the pool.
That's sick.
And this is why social media is so important, because how did this kid know that his fucking
future was going to be turned out to be sponsored,
by Popeyes, right? And so it's true what they say. As much as social media is like the devil in disguise, it can also
be a blessing too, man. And you know what the thing is, and that's the one thing, as a lot of people do tend to sometimes shit on NIL, but what they don't realize is, okay, let's look at the back end. Before this, how much merch are they selling when it comes from like every universities, the merch, the ticket sales, and they're paying millions to the coaches while the players get what? Nothing.
Is that, you know what I like to compare that to? Good thing you brought that up. I like to compare this to what's going on in the music industry right now. There's so many artists who are just like think that they need a label deal for distribution. Distribution is like a big key word in the music industry.
That's true. Everybody got a
right?
label,
And we can apply this to almost anything, right? So what I'm about to tell you doesn't just apply to music artists, it applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to go after that big distributor, the big fish, the one that's going to lift me up from my feet. Bro, you can literally, if you're an artist right now, and you got a little buzz around you, take people to your own website. You don't need to be part of Sony Music.
Yeah.
Right? If they fuck with your music, have a little catalog online that goes for $5.99 and just start your subscription based. You're going to get 20, 30, 40 people buying your music every 3 months, and that audience is going to keep growing.
Yeah.
And you're going to own 100% of your IP.
Yeah.
What good is Sony doing for you? What good is Universal doing for you? They're going to focus on the top dogs anyway. And once you sign to a big company like that, you might have one round with them, right? Case in point, Jay Sean. You might have a couple of good rounds with them, and eventually they own your ass. Jay Sean can't get paid anymore for fucking Down from Lil Wayne. He can't get paid for it. So and I don't want to speak on behalf of Jay. Obviously, he's a mutual friend of mine as well. I'm not sure how his, portfolio looks like of investments. I'm sure he's doing well, but I will guarantee you that Cash Money owns those rights to those songs. I will guarantee you that Cash Money owns majority of the distribution rights of all of his tracks with Cash Money. And whatever royalty check that Jay's seen from those tracks is barely anything compared to what he could have done if he went solo, right?
And like it's even I remember this actually.
And what's funny is Jay did go solo, right?
Yeah.
He was solo before, he got signed to Cash Money, now he's solo again. So he's almost somebody who you can kind of look at and be like, this is what happens when you start up by yourself and you make noise, you do get cataloged. Sony Music or Cash Money picks you up, and then they do a couple of rounds with you. You become a little playboy in Hollywood for a good 2-3 years, and they spit you back up back to UK.
Back to you.
Damn.
So it's like that's a very ruthless case study example. Jay Chaudhry, he's up and out too. So it's like it hits us even worse because I fuck with that guy from day one.
Because it was like the whole group. Remember like Danny Fernandez, Jay Sean, like what was it, 2010? Like bro, they were at the pinnacle. Like they were on the like everybody knew. You know, so hey. Yeah,
but even it's a Nipsey Hussle. Like I was, I think he was setting in like he had an interview, he had some sort of interview, and he was saying like 50 Cent actually gave him advice on this regards. He's like, the reason why I didn't sign with the label was because he noticed like how much cut that they are actually taking from his own revenue.
Yeah,
and that's why he only released mixtapes.
Makes sense.
It makes sense though, because like man, like as you said, like okay, look at one of the biggest who gets a lot of views when it comes to like the hip hop world, but you wouldn't say he puts out bangers every day. Yeah. Look at Jason Derulo. He's a prime example.
That's a good example.
He's a perfect example of how to utilize media for, you know, increasing your personal brand.
I remember Jason Derulo because his first hit song, whatever that was, back in fucking...
How do we know?
It was one of those hits, because the reason why we know his name, those tracks.
Yeah.
I remember specifically, he started popping off on Instagram for his comedy skits. Yep. He started doing like professionally shot, you know, like Key and Peele type of pranks and stuff like that. Yeah. That's how he started maintaining his audience close. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now when he's doing tracks with Nora Fate, he's blowing up again because he's carrying his fan base with him. Yep. Same thing with athletes. With athletes, is this is your foundation, your college level. Start your audience here. Yeah. Build. So by the time you get to the NBA cannot snatch anything that's around you. You have your own merch. You have your own shoe line. You have your own jewelry line. You have your own nail deals that are coming with you to NBA as well. Most likely than not, you'll have your own shoe line before you even make it to the NBA. Yeah. Right? And this could be used as leverage now, as we see in the case of Bronny James, for example, who's not a phenomenal player, but just because of his name they got him into the league. Of course, with the help of his dad. But this is a very great indication as to what's to come next, which is people are going to start chasing social media followers, social media channels, subscribers, because, and this is a whole different conversation where sports are now going into streaming. Officially, we're leaving broadcast behind, and sports is officially going to a world where digital subscriptions are going to be your commodity. It's not going to be your name anymore, how much you're worth, is how much fucking subscribers can you bring to my channel. Yeah, and that's the one thing. That's all that's going to matter. Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to touch up as well. Like with this, you know, digital technology, VR and all this, and incorporating that into sports, how do you feel like that's kind of like changing as we're progressing? Because now we are seeing these, you know, people sitting there courtside, like, not even courtside. I don't know how those VR work. Is that you sitting at home or courtside? How is that?
Sitting at home, and then you have like a floor seat. You know?
You feel like you're right there in the game.
So basically, it's a great question. It's something that I've worked with directly with Meta, with NBA and UFC. We helped them launch the Meta Quest 3, which is something that I personally sat and tested out. Bro, it's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like
the tech is crazy. You actually feel like you're there for sure. 100%. There's no difference between being courtside or these glasses. Yeah, there's a little. Yeah, like you could tell it's something funny. Because you can still feel your hands. That's the only funny part. But tie your hands away from this. You're there. Right. And so what's happening in the world of VR right now is substantially going to change the way the future generation consumes sports. So I do see a future where physical attendance and gate revenue isn't going to make a difference anymore, because the gate revenue is going to come from the VR headset, because you're going to pay to watch the match through your VR, you know, coin setting. You've hit your account. You're in the game now. While you're in the game, you're going to see sponsored ads. You're going to see advertisements just like you do on TV, but it's going to be in-game ads. Bet365. What do you think Lemelo's going to make this shot? Bet now, fucker. And you have to click it. Just because you're in the moment, you click it. I bet he does. And that's going to be a very big thing. Betting is going to go up the roof. That's crazy. And on this side of your VR set, you're going to have your fan game experience where all your boys are at. Right? So you're going to see Buck, you're going to see Emily, you're going to see all your boys. They're like, yo, you guys watching this shit? And they're all there with you, all in VR, in separate homes, but you're together. And the way that's
insane. Yeah, but revenue that's going to be generated from that is going to be not even crazy.
It's just experience that you can get without actually
people are concerned about this because they're just like, yo, like, what kind of future is this? Like, nobody's going to be together anymore. And it's like, but take a strong look at the generation right now who's growing up. they want to be at home. My little cousins and nephews, they don't like when I say let's go out. They're like, stay home. We're kicking it, bro. Fucking watch some Netflix, play some Fortnite, play some whatever. And I'm gonna say, bro, like let's go outside, play some ball. And they're like, I don't want to, because and it's not like they're losers. Well, they are losers, but it's because they're introverted.
Yeah.
Right? This is the generation. This is the generation of where introverted is being cool because you want to stay at home, and like the girls want to stay home too.
Yeah.
Because our girls from our generation want to go to the clubs to get noticed, so the guys can hit on them and flirt with them. I'm not saying that was the only reason they went out. Relax, don't cancel me. Don't cancel me now. But it was part of the reason that they were going out was because, you know, they wanted to go out there, look pretty, and the guys were posting. It would be a nice little, you know, night out with the girls. The guys would come out. But now the guys are liking the content on TikTok. The girls are online getting self-gratification from likes.
From just putting their
fucking ass out there. So they're just like, bro, I don't need... It's called dopamine, right?
Dopamine.
We go out to experience what? Dopamine. That's the reason why we go to sporting events. Men go out because we get dopamine. We'll go with our boys somewhere, you know? And it's boys' night. Let's go watch the fucking NBA game. Let's go to Boston Pizza, have a few drinks. This is all dopamine. You see, oh, girl, dopamine level rises up. Now we're living in a time where it all happens within a screen. Yo, a girl like my picture.
Yeah.
Bro, she DM'd me.
You know what's so crazy?
What the fuck are you talking about?
That notification goes off on your screen. You're like, oh shit, you're right away. You're in there. You're doing.
And they're in there. My little cousins are in it. They're in it. With me, I get DMs all the time. Like, it's nothing for me, whatever, right? But it's like, I could see why it's big for them because they never experienced what we experienced was growing up in our times. And I guess all this that we're talking about coincides with what's happening next in the world of VR, where they're going to be so used to this already. They don't care if they're not going to an NBA game. They're going to be like, yo, Raptors game tonight, you word, boom, out.
But how do you feel like that's going to change?
Everything's in there. All the popcorn's there, all the snacks are there. And mind you, I do predict Uber Eats is going to team up with VR. So it's like, yo, I want to order, like, yo, you just want a free Big Mac. And it's already on its way to your house now. Because it's through the app. VR. And it's going to be all through this VR headset.
Crazy.
How do you feel like that's going to change the sports industry in general, though? Okay, so now you're paying, like, to run an arena is not cheap, you know? How do you feel like you can't just not put no fans in there, or like they're going to be fans, but how do you dictate, how do you differentiate?
You just move to smaller stadiums, bro.
Yeah?
Or you just see a court with a couple of fucking 18 cameras around the court.
But do you think that demotivates play? Be like, yo, what am I playing for?
Oh, definitely. But once again, we're living in a time where even the players growing up next generation will understand this is my job to entertain. I'm telling you, it's going to get to a very weird, robotic world. And I'm not just saying this as like futuristic. It's happening now. Yeah. Players already understand that players already played through COVID. They know what it's like playing without fans.
That's true.
About to say,
they're playing with screens. Like
they understand what that's like already.
Yeah.
So for future athletes coming out of college to be like, yo, bro, your next game is at this stadium. Oh, yeah, whatever, bro. I'm getting paid millions to come out of my shorts. Bunch of cameras, screens are going to be there with fans who are tweeting, who are liking, and there's going to be the same amount of noise.
Damn.
And they're going to be fine with it. It's fine. Let's go play.
And how that's going to be experienced.
And it's going to be smaller stadiums for sure because they don't need 20,000 stadiums anymore. It's going to be cheaper to operate these games.
Yeah.
And the advertisers are still going to want to sponsor them.
That's true. But you know, like, again, the negative impact on society, though. Like, you know, one thing I battle with more kids, I'm like, you know what I can't stand these days? You go on Sportsnet, you go on anywhere. What are they talking about? You say, Scotty Barnes. Over 5 assists, under 5 assists. What are we teaching the younger generation? And like the degeneracy to bet at Sportsnet. Kids, we watch Sportsnet.
Yeah.
Every kid's watching this. He's 11. We're like, yo, dad, what is? Let me download this app.
Yeah.
Now you have your iPhone. You can download the app. Kids are freaking smart these days. They can get a MasterCard, put it in, then they start betting at a young age. And guess what? What leads to a lot of suicide at a young age? Which is what? Debts, gambling debts.
Yeah,
is related to suicides amongst the generation between I forgot what it was. I was reading this article. I don't know if it was from 20 to 40. It was like an age range, and suicide, gambling debt was one of the leading causes that people were committing suicide. But now it's glorified on Sportsnet. People are talking on TSN. You're watching highlights, and I'm like, man, I don't care.
Brought to you by Bet365. Brought to you by DraftKings.
Yeah.
Like,
or brought to you by the latest fucking trend, OnlyFans. And it's like they're sexualizing the next generation. They're making them become very monetized, sexually deprived. And they want to make sure that these kids are just staying home and they're ordering everything online. We don't want these guys out in public gathering, because what happens when you start gathering in public places? You start ideating. You start wondering about the world. Why doesn't this make sense? They don't fucking want that. Right?
So then what's the balance then? If you're gonna have, especially this type of
We're going to
technology,
like conspiracy world now. Right? We can get there for sure, but like that is ultimately what we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
The hidden agenda, what we're secretly talking about here, forget sports, forget everything, is the way that audiences itself are being constructed and revolutionized to go to the next era is to just internalize themselves and like to stay at home.
You know, it's so true though, because like we talked about this in last podcast. We as men, guess what? Like we spoke about this. A girl that like, you know, that's underdressed to put themselves on social media, which is they say when you download it 12 plus, but that's not 12 plus content. That's not. So now that girl's getting the dopamine rush of, oh wow, my one post got 200,000 likes. And for men, it's like they're getting the dopamine. It's like, damn, like she's fine. Now they're scrolling, they're on her page. Now they're like, oh, she has an OnlyFans page. Oh, $5 here, $5 here. And like, where does it end? And as you said, it's like preparing a world for the change.
Yeah.
You know, and
they've been secretly they've been kind of like grooming the next generation to get used to this. Ever since iPhones and smartphones came out, notice the trend of somebody should have this report online somewhere where I want to see a report that talks about how many kids have used their mommy and dad's credit cards under the age of 18 on these apps. Because you know they say level up $1, but the mom's credit card's already attached to the phone. So the kid's just like, bye. Because the company knows we're not going to show mom too much fucking transactions. Only $1 at a time. It kind of embeds itself in the bill when it comes. So the parents who are very strict will notice it, but generally fucking go there, don't give a fuck.
They don't care.
They don't give a shit.
But what's happening though? This kid is gambling. He's 9 years old, gambling. You don't call it gambling because you call it tokens. It's gambling, right? So they're preparing you for what's next. So when you're 16, 17, 18, now you're like, oh, I know what Bet365 is. I know what DraftKings is. I've seen that before. Yeah, I'll put in $5. I've already been putting $5 since I was 15 in fucking Tetris. Right, so what's $5 on the next move of the next play? Oh, what's $5 again? Oh, that's the subscription bare minimum for OnlyFans. So let me just go over to OnlyFans now because they're sponsoring this match anyway. Let me give this girl a little shout. So it's like it's becoming very fucked up the way things are going. And so I fear that, you know, the more digital we go, even coming from a guy who is digitally active and like all I do is digital stuff. It's like I still see the harm in it for the future generations. So like my personal goal is to make sure that at least the people that I'm producing the content for is always healthy. I don't do any brand deals with any gambling companies. I don't do any content with OnlyFans. I don't do any content for any organization that doesn't align with my ethics or morals. I don't do any of that stuff.
And you know what the issue is, Jay? Like you have that moral conscience not to go for it, right? Okay, you look at like mainstream media. Let's talk about big podcasts, right? Gil's Arena, or you talk about Pivot, or you know these other. Club Shay Shay. I think Joe Rogan. I don't think he's associated with any type of stuff. You know, but kudos to him. He has a different agenda he wants to promote. Right. You know, he people say, oh, he's way more woke or some shit. Like you know, like but. When you see this day in and out, well, Gilbert Arenas is talking about like Bet365s. They have a whole segment at the end of the thing where players are listening, be like, oh, what's your picks for tonight? So as a kid, be like, yo, they're NBA players. They know what they're talking about. Okay, that's guaranteed. I'm going to put it in. $5 is not going to hurt me. It's going to happen a week after, another week after. Like you have that, you know, the moral conscience. Like, you know, I don't want to promote that to my audience. I don't, right? But there comes a point, like I told Mook, I'm like, if this brand were to come, I'm like, I wouldn't do it. I can't. I'm like, even if I'm fucking broke, I'm not taking that deal.
Yeah, good for you.
You know, like, what's the point? What
you have a moral conscience. It is very good to hear that you guys are talking like that as well. And I'm sure, Mook, you align with him as well on that.
No, he has a different thought. He said he could take it. I'm like, no, Mook, we're not taking it. I'll just say
yes for that.
Well, no, I mean, it's a tricky barrel run because where does it stop then, right?
Yeah,
that's the question. It's like, okay, cool. Bet365 comes first, offers you guys, let's say, $5, $10K to set up your own podcast. You can say cool for the first run. Right, but then as long as you have a goal that we want to take this enough so that we don't need Bet365 anymore. We want to bring in an up-and-up sponsor, somebody who else can come in. But if you continue that relationship with them, it's only going to lead. Your audiences are going to start switching up. The people that you're going to promote to are going to start switching up. Now you're talking about degenerate gamblers. The comment section start changing. Your user base starts switching. Now they're going to demand you guys start talking about shit that interests them. Otherwise, they ain't fucking with you. And now your bag's on the line. So now you have to attest to that. So it becomes a very tricky, slippery slope. And it's like, that's why I'm able to make the conscious decision early on from the get-go for my career. Like, yo, these are the principles that I live by. They're the morals and ethics that I live by. That's been embedded in me from my father. I'm not going to break that shit for nobody. So whatever I do produce, whoever I do work with, Not that they personally have to align with me, but the product that we're creating for the audience says that has to align with however I feel.
Yeah, no, more power to you for, abiding by that and upholding it. A lot of people say they have that moral conscience or, but they don't actually follow through with it. Because, it's tempting. Because, like, imagine if you are doing media, you are in this space, you're like, man, I'm not making anything. But this company they're giving me 10,000, whatever, like, for a couple months. Fuck, I'm going to take it. It's out of desperation. And people lose track of, what they kind of stand on. So, that you got to stand your ground no matter what it is. I think it's to forego the cost to put a better future for the generation, I think is a far greater achievement than the 10K you'll make in that 3 months. Far greater.
For sure. Hands down. 100%.
So then what would you recommend in the sense of like, even just talking about brand deals, and we're talking about nil, right? I'm going to kind of put it all together here. See, like if let's say,
you're an athlete.
If you have a student, like if you have a student athlete, let's say a college athlete, right? They're starting off, they're trying to build up the brand, and then they get a deal, something like Bet365.
Right.
I mean, they can't work with that company anyways, just because of regulations. But just scenario sense, like it's something that's easy that comes to them. Yeah. Be like, hey, they'll be like, hey, put this out on your Instagram, put this on your social media and stuff, and we'll give you $5,000.
Right.
Right. But then they're battling between like I was saying, they're battling between like what's ethical.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, but a lot of these students are going to have to make that decision on their own. If they want to do these types of deals, it's up to them. If that's the kind of content they want to promote to the youth, that's fine. We understand how the culture is progressing into that area anyway. So a lot of these athletes are already going to just be cool with it, I think. Yeah. Right? Unless you're like a Muslim athlete who's like religiously forbids you from gambling, stuff like that, or alcohol. Yeah. I can see those people saying flat out no's. Yeah. But majority of like these players, especially the US players, I don't see them kind of like backing away from any deal, especially when you're broke, especially when you're not making that type of dollar. Tough,
it's hard, man. It's hard to, to say okay to that devil that's sitting on this side that you're not supposed to.
Yeah, bro.
The good one's like, I ain't got nothing. The devil, he's like, I got everything. So, but one thing I do want to talk about, like being from South Asian community, what would you say for athletes or even brand, like people that want to get into agency? Because like Muk is the only person that I know in Edmonton or Western region that even wants to pursue something in the sports agency. On top of my head, I'm like, I wouldn't pick it. Like I see the emails and this, that, like he's trying to set up and start hire intern. I'm like, why are you doing this shit? I make it so hard, right? So then now it deters you from it. But like for the next people, like I don't want to do that. Like why would I do that? What would you say to the audience, people out there that do want to pursue it, but they don't be like, man, I don't see the future like be beneficial for me and monetary wise, be like, I don't see how it's going to pan out for my future.
Monetary wise.
And for the athletes as well.
Yeah, well, monetary wise, it's a $2 billion industry currently. It started at $1 billion from 2020. So the money's there for sure. One of the things I recommend for anybody to get started is to fulfill your first case study on your own. And what I mean by that, find your athlete from your local high school, your local college, and start with him or her. Dedicate yourself to just one athlete. That's essentially what happened with me and how I started Break Media. I started with one athlete. His name was Phil Greco. Phil Greco is a Niagara Falls-based boxer. At the time, he already fought pretty well-known names like Errol Spence and Sean Porter. Yep. And he's part of PBC Al Heyman as well. But he wasn't really popping off. Great guy, charismatic, funny, good-looking, Italian. You know these guys? Yeah. I come from a great family. He loved food. I'm like, yo, bro, I got this idea. This is how Break Media came into birth. When I was like, I got an idea, and I know it's going to work. And I said, let's get together. And we produced boxing's first ever travel and food show called Culinary Fighter. It's still on YouTube. You can check it out. And by the way, this entire case study is available online to go fact check what I'm about to tell you. I started with him. We made a 7-8 part series about him traveling across the U.S., trying new taco spots, pizza spots, new restaurants. But at these restaurants, he learned how to cook something, and he brought in a guest to eat with him. And these guests were boxers. Paulie Malignaggi, Peter Quillins, Chris Algieri's, Mikey Garcia's, like huge boxing names, right?
Yeah, big names.
Because Phil had the contacts, right? So my idea was create this series, and let's see what happens to Phil's IP once I do this. And mark my word, within 3 months, he got so popular because of that channel that Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, called him to go fight Amir Khan, and he did.
Wow.
In the UK.
Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, so Phil Greco versus Amir Khan was made strictly because of the content series that we produced that was brainchild by me sitting in Toronto saying, is this going to work or not? So yeah, there's your fucking answer.
Yeah.
It worked. And it took me literally within 3 to 6 months to facilitate
everything. But okay, like, now, the reason why I say like starting up, you name big players though, like Paulie, like Mike Garcia, like all these people. But thing is, like someone who's within like even a community or smaller athletes, they don't have you would say the grasp to even have these big names.
So use local names, use local celebrities. It's all about leveraging your fan base. So if I was starting off from scratch right now, I'd go to U of T right now, and be like, yo, who's the best baller here? Cool. What's your Instagram like? 1,500 followers? Who cares? Let's go. Let's work together. Let's collab. Let's produce some content, original content. This is where ideas should start formulating. And you produce an original series that launches on his Instagram or Facebook or Twitch or TikTok or all of them at once. But it should be brainchild by you.
Yeah.
And you put together content and you start distributing that content for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
I always say give it 3 months before you walk away from anything. Give it your hardest for 90 days. That's always been my rule. It's something that Phil, the boxer, till this day, he always calls me and says, your fucking 90-day plan. Like, you always talk about that because it's always been a 90-day plan for me. Yeah. Anything I do, give it 3 months. If it doesn't work out, move on. Yeah. And if you start seeing traction, give yourself another 90 days.
Yeah.
If you start seeing traction, give yourself another 90 days. Yeah. So, I'd go to U of T, I'd pick an athlete, work with him for the first 90 days, see any progression. Most likely you will. Yeah. Because people in school start being like, yo, I saw that show of yours. It's pretty cool, man. Yeah. All you need next is a sponsor, somebody to pay for this content. Yeah. So go to your local pizza shop or the street that he lives on. Go knock on that pizza shop that he's been going to eat for the last 10 years. Yeah. They got money. They do. Ask them for a couple of $100 a week to sponsor your fucking athlete because this is what we're trying to do with him. When he makes it big, you guys will be the first person that he shuts out. They'll most likely give you money. And to do the copy and paste this with 4 or 5 other sponsors in his area. Yeah. You now have enough money to create original content for this guy's first year being a college player, and you level up each time you do this. Yeah. That's so true. Because the more views that come in, the more subscribers come in, the more content gets better. Now you're not going to approach Alonzo's Pizza. Now it gets where you're going. Pizza.
Yeah. And you know what?
You're coming with them with the track record.
Exactly. And the success is almost like synonymous throughout everything. As you said, it's like the agent gets the success to his athlete. The athlete gets his success, via agent, like what he does with him. And as you said, the sponsors that come along from the get-go, they, not get an advantage, but they get the requisition for supporting someone who's local. And now once they make it, be like, wow, these are the people that started off with me, from the get-go, and like we made it this far. And now we're starting to see these like platforms like Indo Hoops or these in our Desi community where they're starting to have these tournaments where our players are coming up. Before I don't think we had these platforms when you were growing up. I don't think we have any platforms like this.
No,
like
nothing.
Winnipeg, I think recently had a tournament where they had an elite division, non-for-profit. The team who won 10K prize win.
Nice.
For community 5K. Yeah. That encourages kids to go out there and to participate, showcase. Sure. And what's the one thing that they do the most is media. Everybody's gonna be watching. This is gonna be the hype. So record yourself. Yeah. Make clips out of whatever you're doing as an athlete, and have agents present there or have non-for-profit organizations, partner up with those
for sure.
companies.
100%. Yeah, Book, he's absolutely right. And you're absolutely right too. Like, I think the way you start is just ground zero, just like Break Media started. Yeah. You literally knock on the first door of the first athlete you see, who you want to work with, find a local sponsor, get the revenue in, start producing content. Even if it's on a small scale, it's okay. It doesn't have to be. I was lucky because I was a filmmaker that I was able to put sweat equity into Phil. Yeah. You know what I mean by sweat equity? I mean, I didn't get paid shit. Yeah. I didn't get paid shit because this was my idea. Why would I charge somebody for an idea? I want to charge people for a fucking product. Yep. Yeah. So Break Media was built on a product that was successful from Phil, and why I was able to charge boxers and charge agencies and charge companies and networks a certain fee because my content wins. And that later on became a much more successful formula to where I am now. Yeah. And now I'm producing for the likes of JaVale McGee, Lemelo Ball, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Max Holloway,
I love
Travis Kelce, Vernon Davis, you fucking name it. I'm producing content with them because it came off of a winning formula. And I want to shout out our agency in LA, Incubation Lab. Shout out to Jerron Smith, Alani Ford, Chris Holiday. Together we run a very successful production hub in LA called Incubation Lab, who's fundamentally doing all these big name content series that I'm part of is through that agency. And the work that they've been able to do in such limited time from where they started to where they are now has been unbelievable. And we're doing some amazing things with presidential candidates from Barack Obama to Kamala Harris to Joe Biden. Yep. And it's
That's
funny because I
insane.
get all these DMs and they'll be like, "Yo, are you like a liberal? Are you like on the Bronx side? Are you voting for Biden?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm from Canada.
I don't give a
We
shit.
got our own problems
Yeah,
here, bro. Like, I don't
yeah.
even know who I'm voting for here yet." Like,
That's so funny.
Like a prime
But-
example, I think, starting from the bottom is I forgot his name. He's a team manager for McNeese University. What's his name? Khan. He's the
Khan.
first team manager. He has the first. He's like
Six-figure nil deal.
6-figure nil
As a
deals.
manager, he signed.
This kid is nobody.
Like only thing
Never
I
heard
don't know
of
if you so only thing this guy used to do, Chris, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so this only thing this guy used to do, he used to have this
Heard
boom
about
box. Yeah, he used to have this boom box. You know how 49ers used to bring that boom box as they walked in the pre-games?
okay.
So this guy used to do the same thing. I forgot, but it was a young boy song the team used to come out to. So this guy, he knew every lyric word by word. So he would sing it. And then next thing you know, it's going viral left, right, center on Instagram.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, this guy's hiring managers. He has security. He's getting nil deals.
He has a whole ass
Orakan.
agent.
Yeah.
You never seen it before?
No.
I mean,
Yo, it's so
Orakan. That's his
hype.
name.
It's so hype.
So
He's what? He's in NBA right now? Or you play
No, he's in college.
College.
He's
Yeah.
he's a team assistant team
yeah,
manager.
like play that video. Chris, if you
And
don't
he's
mind.
making how much a year?
So he
6
just, I mean, they didn't declare like exactly how
he
much.
has like 12 different nil deals. Like
Himself. And what college is he with?
McNeese.
He was with McNeese. I think he's getting
He got-
offer from.
Yeah, he got an offer
Just
from
skip
another
that ad, Chris.
university.
Yeah, so he would start this is the pregame,
Okay.
and you have this boombox with the athlete, and he's singing
The
young
TikTok.
boy lyrics
TickPick
word
is
to word.
TickPick is a sponsor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sponsor, yeah.
And then
He's a sponsor
overnight,
for-
this guy blew up.
Who's sponsoring the boombox? That's probably an audio company too.
Well, he has a sponsor for the books too.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, Amir Khan.
yeah. They call him Amir
student
Orakan. Yeah.
That's cool.
So like
the kind of stuff that's selling
yeah,
right
stuff
now.
like this.
This
like
stuff
social
is
media.
so good. But
And
this is
look
what
at, he's having an athlete.
He's not even an athlete.
Yeah.
He just
He's a mascot.
Yeah, he used to
Yeah.
throw the ball to the athletes, and next thing you know,
He's a mascot.
Yeah, he's a
Funny.
mascot. Now he has a 6-figure deal with with different colleges.
But even look at the opportunity. Like this kid was a nobody. Right? Now look at this kid. He's like, he's vibing with the team and stuff.
Yeah.
And all
But
that
you know,
stuff.
with one thing I want to spoke about, you with Incubate, right? You worked with
Incubation lab.
Incubation Lab. You worked with a lot of athletes. We spoke about all the great athletes you worked with. Is there certain athletes that came along you guys' journey where you're like, man, why is this guy so difficult to work with?
No, man.
Not but throw you
No,
on the
everybody
bus.
that we worked with at Incubation Lab has been like family to us, man. Like from
Yeah.
Lemelo Ball to Russell Westbrook, to Chris Paul, Steph Curry. All these athletes fundamentally are just people like us, man. You know what I mean?
Because
Steph Curry's married to Aisha Curry, who's
Curry.
from Brampton, bro. So it's like from Vaughan, sorry. So it's like,
From Vaughan, yeah.
they're all just homeboys, bro.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And it's like a lot of the time when you're working with these athletes, they're not so much. They're not the ones who are difficult. What difficult is the people in between us and the athletes.
Athletes,
So like
yeah.
the agencies,
Yeah.
right? And it's like working with these agencies can be not difficult, but sometimes overbearing because it's like you have so many chefs cooking the pot at that point where it's like
Yeah.
we're coming in from a production standpoint where we know how to execute this.
Yeah.
And then the agency's coming on from a place of KPI and like what kind of measurements they need ahead. And it's like all this like jibber jabber nerdy fucking talk where you're
Yeah.
just like, yo,
But I don't give a damn.
like we do give a damn because we're promising the deliverables
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
on that stuff. But it's like it's when you're dealing with athletes at this pro level, right? At this pro level, it gets very muddy when you're dealing with agencies, right?
Yeah.
Who are representative of the brands that we're working with, and the athlete side as well. But the athletes always want to do good. The athletes always want to have fun. So my job as the director or producer on set is to make sure the athletes are having fun.
yeah.
And that the qualifications for the brand is being met.
Yeah.
So I'm like the liaison on set. I'm like the one who's making sure the athlete's having fun, the crew's having fun,
Yeah.
and the brand, most importantly, is okay and satisfied with every shot that's being produced.
Mhm.
And then you get into post-production world where it's like, okay, all the fun is done. Now it's just you and that guy Mikey who was on set who's giving you cut eye all day, and it's just you and him now, and you guys have to make sure the end product fits their narrative. So a lot
yeah.
of stuff starts getting. A lot of stuff starts getting removed from the original cut. They don't want this shot anymore, and it's like it gets to a point where you start becoming more of a refined producer and director every time you get onto set.
Yeah.
So now it's no longer about fun for me, which it is. I'm always making sure all my sets are fun, but it's more or less it's like, what does the brand want? How do we make sure that we complete all the work the brand wants? before we even get into post. So it makes our job a lot easier in post, rather than before when we first started producing content, more or less like, hey, let's have some fun, we'll figure it out in post. It doesn't work in this world, especially when there's millions of dollars on the line, athletes' reputations on the line. You got brands like Meta, UFC, NBA on the line, or in the case of, Steph Curry and Chris Paul working with Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris is on the line. And now his presidential candidacy on the line. Like, all of our content really affects the way that the world perceives these candidates, right? So when you're working with presidents, bro, it's not as easy as it looks. Like, fuck the security checks, fuck the Secret Service, which is a whole other department you have to go through before you even get to set. I have stories about Secret Service, right? Especially like looking like this, showing up to set. They're like, oh, we might have to check you.
Hold on.
We gotta check you a couple more times. It's like, bro, you checked me twice already. It's like, yeah, but you went to the bathroom, so come back here. It's like, real shit, right? So it's like, because you're like 5 feet away from Obama, bro. You're 5 feet away from Harris. You're 5 feet away from Biden. Insane. It's like, they want to make sure everything's done. So now the content you're producing, in collaboration with like these NBA players with the presidencies, you're ultimately affecting the way viewers perceive these candidacies and the way to review the NBA players. Because now you got these NBA players be like, yo, bro, like, I want to make sure I look good too. I want to make sure I look educated too. I can't look like an idiot in front of these people. All right, I got you too. So it's like you're babysitting, you're orchestrating, you're consciously aware 24/7 as to what you're orchestrating on set when it comes to these big time high IP type of celebratorial candidates, right? But it's been fun. It's been amazing.
Wow.
And Incubation Lab has been a front runner in culture content when it comes to sports content for sure.
Yeah, and then like with work, just another thing on just working with brands too. When you're working with these brands on production and everything, do you have any leniency in regards to like, hey, like providing suggestions, be like, if a brand comes and be like, hey, this is what we want for the advertisement or whatever it is, the campaign, do you have any leniency with be like, hey, this would be better instead?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we always have leniency. I think the agency that we've been fortunate enough to work with so far, they do have their immediate protocol sheet, which is like, hey, we want to make sure these are the mandatory shot lists, stuff that we want to see. And then we can either, there's two options from there. We can either go in and just tell them, hey, look, we like the idea here, but I think we can do it better by doing it this way. Most of the time, they do lean on to the production company to have not the final say, but to have the creative say. The final say is always the brand. The one thing about the branded content is, don't think that you're in charge. You're just in charge with the quality at that point. You're more or less the quality control of the project, if you will, right? And the second thing is, when it comes down to actual shot lists on set, the brands sometimes will get involved sometimes, right? They'll come into between sets, be like, hey, I know you approved that shot, Jay, earlier, but like we didn't like it. And I'd be like, which one? But we just didn't like the way his like hand looked and like it looked kind of weird. And you're there saying like, motherfucker, what I'm talking about. But you can't. So you're like, oh, yo, rewind that shit for a second. Then he'll rewind it and be like talking about this shot. But like, yeah. And I say, well, it's too late to go back and do that shot again because that was fucking 6 hours ago. But what we could do in post is cover that up, and then you got to give solutions on the spot. And it's like, sometimes they'll be like, well, why can't you shoot again? It's like, because you idiot. It takes 4 hours to set up that shot. It takes a whole team. You guys got here in the morning at 9. We've been here since 5 setting up that shot. So it's like, you don't talk to them like this, obviously. You talk to them a bit more respectfully, but it's like, you have to understand that they also have their wishes. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, we'll get to that fix for sure. Because at the end of the day, they're right. If they don't want to see that shot, it's my job to make sure that shot doesn't exist. How we get there is all about professionalism, with care, with the utmost respect for the client as well.
Would you say like there's an athlete that you've been wanting to work on with, or something maybe that woodworks that you'd be like, you know what, we're finally gonna make it happen, or is someone that you've been wanting to work with us forever? Bro, is there someone you say on top of your head?
I'm blessed. I've worked with everybody, man.
Yeah, damn.
Everybody I wanted to work with, from like Travis Kelce, I've always loved that guy. I worked with him my first year.
That's insane.
Vernon Davis, Super Bowl champ. Max Holloway, my favorite UFC fighter. I've worked with him on a Sony Sony picture deal with him. Boxers, you name them, I worked with them. Everybody. So it's like.
So would you say like getting these athletes, and obviously like Travis Kelce, the world? No, I can't go get him. Like you can't. How do you even open that door to that place where you have Travis Kelce, you have like player like DeAndre Jordan, Joel McGee, Curry, like Lemelo? How do you even navigate those doors? Like, do you feel like you have to tiptoe around certain political scene? Because there's politics everywhere. No matter what door you walk around, like it is everywhere. Do you feel like you have to tiptoe around certain things, or is it just because the genuine people you put yourself around, it just led you to these opportunities?
I think the energy that I put out there, is attractive enough for brands, companies, colleagues, producers, execs to want to continue working with me, right? So it's like I've been fortunate enough to be put in a position where I've worked with the likes of all those athletes and celebrities and presidents that you've named, but it's like it all comes down to how you carry yourself in the public's eye, right? So it's one thing being good at what you do, which I am. I'm the best at what I do. Yeah. Nobody is better than me at what I do. But beyond being the best, you have to also show appreciation for where you are as well. Yeah. You have to show humility. You have to show respect. And this is why I have so much respect for our company based in LA, Incubation Lab, which is currently run by Lonnie Ford, Jerron Smith, and Chris Holiday, because without their guidance, without their mentorship, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, right? Yeah. So I opened doors for myself to be put in positions to where I am in front of these athletes and celebrities, but it's only because people trust me enough to be in that position, right? And to gain that trust, well, you got to have years worth of track records. Yeah. You have to be clean in the space. You can't have any bad reputation on you. You can't be producing stupid content. You can't be out there doing prank videos.
It takes one thing, man.
Yeah, because it's one thing. Like I told you that joke about Secret Service. They found any prank video on me online or some shit that I do. Get the fuck out of here. He's not invited. I don't care if he's the best. Get him out of here.
That's true.
Not that we wanted some bozo taking some fucking content of Obama and showing it later on online because it's funny to him.
No, it's true.
No, it's so
they're
true.
They're very, very picky of what they do.
Reputation,
And I think, characteristics. I think that's what kind of drives a person down. And, as we're kind of like winding down the podcast, it's funny that you talked about it takes one thing. And then, recently we had this politician, and I actually worked with him when I was in high school since 2011, 12, and to this point. And then, as you said, there was this joke he made back in the days, 20 years ago. It was about they were talking about Hamas and Hezbollah. And next thing you know, Liberal dropped him. He ran for NDP for 16 years, and then he switched to Liberal.
Talking about Jagmeet?
No. We're talking about it's a local MP down in Edmonton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's been in the federal government and everything, and then one joke going back in 20 years,
finished.
Yep. Now he runs independently. But nobody's
He's still in the government? He's still in politics?
I mean, he can still run independently, but how many people are going to vote for that?
How many people vote for him? Yeah. That's another thing about legacy, bro. Every piece of content that I put out there that I leave behind, I want it to be so signature that only Jay Chaudhry touched this. And Jay Chaudhry was the one who left behind this piece of content for the world to see for years to come. Yeah. And nobody can beat that. Yeah. That's it. He did that piece of content. That's the best version of that content ever, right? And I want to fulfill that for every single industry that I'm in. So it's now we're in the name, image, and likeness era. Every brand deal that comes through, every sponsorship that comes through, every athlete's success that came from the Nylon platform is because of something that I was able to craft, right? So legacy is important, man. And it is so important to leave behind a mark that people can look back at and be like, yo, that motherfucker did it. And he didn't do it with no help, no handouts. He wasn't lying. He wasn't seeking around. He wasn't pulling somebody's tail. He wasn't climbing over somebody to go get it. I've never been that type. In fact, I'm somebody who's always helped people get to where they need to go. My DMs, bro, they're always open. People still get impressed by the fact that I reply back to them right away. They're like, yo, you replied back to me? And I'm like, yeah, why? I don't know
how you replied to me.
Like, how the fuck should you reply back to me? I just messaged you yesterday. I'm like, yeah, bro, what's up? I said, no, I don't want to bug you, but I just want to find out how'd you get into this space if you have time.
That was me.
I'm like, bro, holla. No, I mean you came off LinkedIn, I think, right?
Was it LinkedIn? Oh, it is.
But
LinkedIn.
It's a testament though. It's like people like yourself, bro. There's many other people that are willing to help. Nobody's out here be like, yo, they got malice attention. If you come with generosity of hey,
then you want to learn.
Do this? Yeah, I want to learn. Yeah. People going to help you out, and that's a perfect way to, kind of identify your character. You put yourself in a position to put a legacy behind. It's not, you have a purpose in what you're doing and why you're doing it. And when you live it to the fullest, I feel like you reach that, pinnacle in life. I enjoy this.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah.
It's not I have to do it.
Yeah, the competition's saturated up here at this level. You don't really look over your shoulder too much at this level. Like when I was coming up, for sure, I was looking at everybody as competition. Like, motherfucker, you ain't beating me, right? But once you finally get that breath of fresh air that you made it, you know what I mean? Like I do feel like that. Like, oh fuck, I'm here. Like everything I wanted to do, I got. What's left, right? Now it's just about evolving. Now it's just about maximizing. Now it's about teaching others to do what I did, and just not having to worry about looking over my shoulder because nobody's gonna fucking take my place.
But that's the toughest part, is just having the balance between you have the confidence, but you're also within the space of hey, if somebody does reach out and they do have genuine interest in what they're trying to accomplish, 100%. Then you're kind of hey, I'll provide you whatever information that you require.
For sure.
Because I see the potential in you.
100%.
Right? So
it's a matter of fact of reaching out, man. And I think Jay Chaudhry, I'm like, your story is impressive, man. I'm not going to
Thank you, man. Appreciate
No,
it.
I mean it, bro. I don't we try to bring people from different, lives and areas they have walked, and it's truly commendable the way you
Thank
have
you, man. Appreciate
went
that.
about things. You didn't take no shortcuts. You did it the hard way, and that that's more respect to you.
Mhm.
Anything else? I think that's about everything I want to
That's
cover.
perfect,
It
man.
was beautiful talk,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I
Thank you.
enjoyed this. I could
Thank
talk
you.
for like hours, bro.
Yeah.
Jamie, how do you like it, Chris?
Chris, yeah, I could go for hours, but
Chris is goated.
yeah,
Chris.
no, I want to thank you, man, for taking your time out of your
Yeah.
day
Thank you, man. Appreciate
to
it.
coming out. And then, if there's any last message you want to leave to the audience out there, go ahead. And,
Yeah, man.
whatever it is.
No, man. So I want to tell the
drop a
audience.
one-liner.
I want the audience. I'm not good at one-liners. I can go on for hours too. I just want everybody in your community to continue supporting you guys, your podcast, what you guys are doing for the South Asian community.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you guys understand the value that you bring to the South Asian demographic. Don't worry too much about following count. Don't worry too much about who's on your podcast, who's not on your podcast. Keep growing this, and you will see a day come where fucking Jagby Sings of the world are going to want to come on your podcast
Mm.
to have a voice because you guys started something that's special.
Yeah.
So continue to do what you guys are doing, man, for
No,
sure.
appreciate
I'm
it,
always
bro.
here to support you.
Appreciate
No,
it,
that means the world to us. On that note, man, thank you for even tuning in.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.